small figure appears in the hospital's doorway, clutching a tiny bundle wrapped in a faded blanket. Only 10 years old, yet she cradles a newborn with a fierce protectiveness that shouldn't belong to a child. No parents, no explanations, just wide, haunted eyes that tell of secrets too dark for her age. As the staff gathers around her, one thing becomes clear. This girl and the baby she holds have escaped something unspeakable. But can Riverview General become the sanctuary they so desperately need? The waiting room at Riverview General Hospital was quiet that evening, with only a few patients scattered around. Nurse Clara was finishing her shift when she noticed a small figure standing near the entrance, clutching something wrapped tightly in a worn blanket. The figure was a young girl, no older than 10, with wide, frightened eyes that darted around the room as though she expected to be chased. Clara's instincts kicked in immediately. She approached the girl slowly, keeping her voice soft and reassuring. "Hello, sweetheart," she said, crouching down to the girl's eye level. "Are you here alone?" The girl nodded, looking down at the bundle in her arms. Clara's eyes dropped to the blanket, and her heart skipped a beat as she realized what she was holding. A newborn baby, barely days old. Clara's mind raced. How could such a young girl be carrying a baby? Where were her parents? But the questions could wait. Right now, they needed to get her and the baby inside. Gently, Clara placed a hand on the girl's shoulder and led her into an examination room where Dr. Bennett, the attending physician, was finishing up with a patient. Clara's expression told him everything he needed to know. This was serious. As Dr. Bennett approached, he noticed the tension in the young girl's face, a mix of fear and exhaustion. He gave her a kind smile, hoping to ease her worries. "My name is Dr. Bennett. What's yours?" The girl hesitated, her grip on the baby tightening. "It's Emily," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "And who do we have here?" Dr. Bennett asked, nodding toward the baby. Emily's face softened as she looked down at the infant. "This is Leo. He's my brother." The shock on Dr. Bennett and Clara's faces was unmistakable, but they kept their expressions neutral for Emily's sake. Clara exchanged a quick glance with Dr. Bennett, both understanding that this was not a typical case. There were layers to this story, painful ones they could sense. Dr. Bennett gestured for Clara to help settle Emily onto an examination table. "Emily, we're here to help you and Leo. Can you tell us how long you've been caring for him?" Emily's gaze dropped to the floor, her voice barely above a whisper. "Since he was born, a few days ago." Clara's heart broke hearing this. A child raising a newborn, alone and vulnerable. She could only imagine the hardships Emily must have faced in just these few days. But what troubled her most was the question she dared not ask. Why was Emily alone, with no family to help her? Dr. Bennett began a gentle examination of Leo, who whimpered softly but seemed otherwise healthy. Emily watched his every move, visibly anxious, her small hands fidgeting as she sat close by. "You're doing a wonderful job looking after him, Emily," Dr. Bennett said, hoping to reassure her. "Leo seems healthy, but he needs some extra care, and so do you." At this, Emily's expression hardened. "I don't want anyone to take him away. Please. He's all I have." Clara moved closer, placing a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder. "We're not here to take Leo away from you, Emily. We're here to help you both. You don't have to do this alone." Emily looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and doubt. She was just a child, forced to carry a burden far beyond her years. Clara could see it in her eyes, a kind of resilience that only came from enduring hardship. With Leo settled, Dr. Bennett turned his attention to Emily, conducting a quick examination to ensure she was physically well. Clara noticed bruises on her arms, faint but unmistakable, and exchanged a worried glance with Dr. Bennett. Whatever this child had been through, it was clear that it wasn't just poverty or neglect. Something darker lurked behind her story. "Dr. Bennett took a deep breath, keeping his voice steady. "Emily, I know you've been through a lot, but if there's anything you want to tell us, anything that might help us understand, we're here to listen. You're safe now." Emily hesitated, her small hands gripping the edge of the bed. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it, glancing at Leo as if afraid that her words might somehow hurt him. I can't go back," she finally said, her voice trembling. "They can't find me. I have to keep Leo safe." Clara's chest tightened as she listened. It was clear that Emily was terrified, not just for herself but for the baby in her arms. Clara had seen fear like this before, fear that ran so deep it could silence even the strongest of voices. She realized then that, whatever Emily had escaped, it was something she was willing to fight to protect Leo from. "Emily, you don't have to go back," Clara said softly, a promise in her voice. "We'll make sure you're both safe here. You're not alone anymore." A tear slipped down Emily's cheek, and she nodded, though she still looked wary. For the first time since her arrival, a tiny flicker of hope crossed her face, mingling with the fear that lingered in her eyes. Dr. Bennett and Clara exchanged a look, silently agreeing that they needed to take every step carefully with this young girl. She had come to them for a reason, and they would do everything in their power to protect her and her newborn brother. As they prepared a temporary room for Emily and Leo, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever Emily was running from, it was something that had left deep scars, scars that no child should bear. But Clara was determined. She didn't know how, but she would find a way to help Emily and Leo start a new chapter, one filled with the safety and love they deserved. And as she left the room, glancing back at the fragile young girl who was holding on to hope with all she had left, Clara whispered a silent promise to herself. No one would harm these children again. Not on her watch. The morning light filtered gently through the hospital room's blinds, casting a soft glow over the bed where Emily sat, cradling baby Leo in her arms. Nurse Clara entered quietly, bringing a tray with breakfast and a warm smile. She'd spent years working with children, but nothing had prepared her for the sight of a girl so young, holding on to her baby brother as if he were her only reason for living. "Good morning, Emily," Clara greeted softly, setting the tray on a small table near the bed. "I brought you some food. You must be hungry." Emily glanced up, her eyes wary but appreciative. "Thank you," she murmured, then looked down at Leo, who was stirring in her arms, his tiny hands reaching up as he let out a soft whimper. Clara pulled a chair close to the bed, watching as Emily tenderly rocked Leo, humming softly under her breath to calm him. Despite her young age, Emily handled Leo with the gentle, protective instinct of a mother. Clara marveled at her resilience, but knew that it was resilience born out of necessity, not choice. After a few moments, Clara spoke again, her tone careful and reassuring. "Emily, do you mind if I sit with you for a while? Just to keep you company?" Emily hesitated, then nodded, her gaze shifting between Leo and Clara. There was a guardedness in her eyes, a shield she seemed to put up whenever anyone came too close. Clara kept her tone light, as if they were just having a casual conversation. "Leo is a beautiful baby," she said, smiling. "You must love him very much." A flicker of warmth crossed Emily's face, and she nodded, her grip on Leo tightening protectively. He's all I have. I have to keep him safe." Clara's heart ached at the sadness in her voice. She had suspected that Emily's story held a darker truth, but hearing those words, seeing the pain in her eyes, confirmed it. "I can tell you're doing an amazing job, Emily, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. We're here to help you." Emily looked away, her expression conflicted. "I don't trust people," she said quietly. "They always make promises and then they break them, or worse." Clara felt a pang of empathy, understanding the distrust that had taken root in Emily's heart. She reached out, resting a gentle hand on Emily's shoulder. "I understand, sweetheart, and I know it's hard to believe, but we're different. I'm here for you, and so is Dr. Bennett. We want to help you and Leo, no matter what." Emily's gaze softened slightly, but the fear was still there, lurking just beneath the surface. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then hesitated, her eyes darting toward the door, as if she expected someone to walk in at any moment. Finally, she took a shaky breath. "My stepfather." Her voice faltered, but she pushed on, as though determined to let someone in on the burden she had been carrying. "He hurt me, and he told me if I ever told anyone, he would hurt Leo too." Clara's chest tightened, her heart breaking for this brave little girl who had endured so much. She could see the scars, not the physical ones, but the deep, emotional wounds that left a mark far more painful. Clara knew that Emily needed time to heal, that she needed to feel safe before she could fully open up, but this confession was a step forward, a tiny crack in the wall Emily had built around herself. "Emily," Clara said softly, her voice filled with compassion. "You're safe now. No one can hurt you or Leo here. I promise you that." Emily looked at Clara, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I just want to be somewhere where he can't find us. I don't want Leo to grow up scared like I was." Clara nodded, her heart swelling with determination. "We're going to do everything we can to make sure that happens. You don't have to be afraid anymore." Just then, Dr. Bennett entered the room, his expression gentle yet concerned. He had been briefed by Clara about Emily's confession, and he knew this was a delicate situation that required a careful, compassionate approach. "Hi, Emily," he greeted, his voice warm. "I just wanted to check in on you and see how you're doing. Is it okay if we talk for a bit?" Emily nodded, her gaze dropping to the floor. Dr. Bennett pulled up a chair and settled beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. "Emily, I know it's hard to trust people after everything you've been through, but you did the right thing by coming here. You're very brave." Emily looked up, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Brave? I don't feel brave." Dr. Bennett smiled softly. "Sometimes being brave means taking that first step, even when you're scared. And you did that. You came here to protect Leo, even though it must have been so difficult for you." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she looked down, her hands trembling as she held Leo close. Clara reached over, giving her a reassuring squeeze. Dr. Bennett continued, his voice gentle. "Emily, we've already called social services and the authorities. They're going to make sure you and Leo are safe. And I promise you, we're here to support you every step of the way." A tear slipped down Emily's cheek, but she quickly brushed it away, as if afraid to show weakness. Will they keep him away from us?" Dr. Bennett's expression grew solemn. "Yes, Emily. They're going to make sure your stepfather can't hurt you or Leo ever again." Emily let out a small, shaky breath, relief beginning to break through the fear that had been her constant companion. She nodded, a faint glimmer of hope in her eyes. For the first time since arriving at the hospital, Emily allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a way out. That she and Leo could have a life free from the terror that had haunted her every step. Dr. Bennett glanced at Clara, sharing a look of mutual understanding. They both knew that Emily's journey to healing would be long and challenging, but this was a beginning, and as long as they were there to support her, she wouldn't have to face it alone. As they prepared to leave Emily to rest, Clara turned back to her, offering a gentle smile. "You're not alone anymore, Emily. We're here for you, both of you, and we're going to make sure you find a safe place, a place where you and Leo can be happy." Emily nodded, her small, hopeful smile a beacon amidst the pain and uncertainty. She didn't fully understand what lay ahead, but for the first time she felt a glimmer of light piercing through the darkness. The next morning, Riverview General buzzed with activity as the staff prepared to meet with social services and law enforcement officials who had arrived to discuss Emily's case. Nurse Clara, Dr. Bennett, and a social worker named Maria gathered in a private office, ready to lay out a plan to ensure Emily and Leo's safety. Maria, a compassionate woman with years of experience in child protection, leaned forward, her face etched with concern. "From what you've told me, Emily has been through unimaginable trauma. We need to tread carefully to make sure she feels safe and understood." Clara nodded, a fierce determination in her eyes. Emily is terrified of her stepfather finding her. She doesn't trust easily, but she's starting to open up. We can't let her down now. Dr. Bennett, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "We need to arrange for both immediate protection and a long-term solution. Emily needs a stable, loving environment where she can heal without fear." Maria agreed. "I'll make sure we start the legal process to keep her stepfather away from her and Leo. We'll file a restraining order, and I'll look for a foster family who can take in both children. Separating them is out of the question. She's holding on to Leo as her lifeline." As they wrapped up the meeting, Maria headed to Emily's room to speak with her gently about the next steps. Dr. Bennett and Clara exchanged a glance, their hearts heavy yet hopeful. They both knew that today marked a turning point in Emily's journey, one that would lead her away from fear and closer to a future she deserved. Maria entered Emily's room with a warm smile, her gentle presence immediately putting Emily at ease. "Hi, Emily. My name is Maria, and I work with families to help them stay safe and happy. I'm here to talk to you about some ways we can help you and Leo." Emily, who had been sitting quietly by the window with Leo in her arms, looked up, her eyes filled with apprehension. Is he going to find us?" Maria knelt beside her, reaching out to gently hold her hand. "No, sweetheart. We're going to make sure he can't come near you or Leo ever again. We'll be filing a restraining order so that the law will protect you both." Emily's shoulders relaxed slightly, though her gaze remained cautious. "I don't want to go anywhere without Leo. He's my family." Maria smiled, her heart aching at the protectiveness in Emily's voice. "Don't worry, Emily. We're going to keep you and Leo together. I'm looking for a family who can take care of both of you, so you can be safe and stay with him." Emily seemed to ponder this, her young mind grappling with a reality beyond her years. Will they be kind to us?" Maria's eyes softened. "Yes, Emily. We'll make sure they're people who care about you and want to help, and Nurse Clara and Dr. Bennett will be here with you until we find the right family." Emily nodded slowly, a faint glimmer of hope breaking through the shadows of doubt. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice so soft it was barely audible. For the first time, she felt a tiny sliver of trust. A sense that maybe, just maybe, these people were different. Meanwhile, back at the nurse's station, Clara reviewed her notes and spoke with Dr. Bennett, who had just finished his rounds. "Emily's whole world has been Leo," Clara said thoughtfully. "Keeping them together is crucial." Dr. Bennett agreed. "I spoke with a psychologist who specializes in trauma. She'll be visiting Emily over the next few days to help her start processing what she's been through. It's a long road, but having the right support system is everything." Just then, Maria returned from her visit with Emily, her expression determined. "She's been through so much, but she's stronger than most adults I know," she said. "I have a few families in mind who specialize in caring for siblings and children with trauma. I'll be conducting interviews over the next few days to find the best match." Clara felt a surge of gratitude for Maria's dedication. Emily and Leo had come to them as strangers, but now they felt like family, and Clara couldn't bear the thought of anyone else letting them down. "Thank you, Maria," Clara said. "We all want the best for her. She deserves to feel safe and loved." Maria nodded, her resolve unwavering. "I won't stop until I find them the perfect home." Over the next few days, the hospital staff rallied around Emily and Leo, creating a cocoon of warmth and care. Doctors, nurses, and even volunteers stopped by to check on them, each leaving a small gift or a kind word. Emily, still guarded, gradually began to let her defenses down, her walls crumbling as she experienced genuine kindness. One evening, Clara found Emily reading a storybook to Leo, her voice soft and soothing as she narrated the tale of a brave knight protecting his kingdom. Clara felt a lump form in her throat as she watched the scene. Emily was only a child herself, yet here she was, offering comfort and strength to her baby brother. "Emily," Clara said gently, stepping into the room, "I just wanted to say that I'm so proud of you. You're doing an amazing job with Leo. He's lucky to have such a strong big sister." Emily looked up, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I don't want him to feel alone. I want him to feel safe." Clara's heart swelled with emotion, and she took a seat beside Emily. "You're doing that, Emily. And we're here to help too. You don't have to do this by yourself anymore." Emily's eyes shimmered with gratitude, though a flicker of doubt lingered. "I used to think that everyone would hurt us. But you and Dr. Bennett, and even Miss Maria, you're different." Clara reached out, giving Emily's hand a reassuring squeeze. "We are, Emily, and we're going to make sure that you and Leo have a future full of people who care about you." As Clara left the room, she glanced back one last time, her heart heavy yet hopeful. Emily's journey was far from over, but with the love and support of the hospital staff and social services, she knew there was a chance for healing. And Clara was determined to see that chance realized, no matter what. In the coming days, as Maria searched for the right family, law enforcement took further steps to ensure Emily's safety, assuring her that her stepfather would never be able to harm her or Leo again. Slowly, Emily began to believe in the possibility of a life beyond fear. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where Leo could grow up happy, where she wouldn't have to look over her shoulder in fear. With the hospital staff as her newfound allies, Emily began to see the light at the end of a long, dark tunnel. And as she cradled Leo in her arms that night, listening to his soft breathing, she whispered a promise to him. "I'll keep you safe, Leo. I'll make sure you have the life we both deserve." As the days turned into a week, Emily and Leo settled into the rhythm of life at Riverview General. For Emily, this was the first time she'd felt even a semblance of stability in a long while. The walls of the hospital, once sterile and intimidating, had become her refuge, a place where she could finally breathe without fear of what might come next. True to their word, the staff surrounded her with kindness and care, treating her not as a patient, but as a person. Every day, volunteers would bring small gifts: a stuffed animal for Leo, a set of colored pencils for Emily. It was as if everyone understood, on some deep level, that she needed reminders of hope, symbols of a world where love and kindness existed. One afternoon, Dr. Bennett entered her room with a soft knock, accompanied by a gentle-looking woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Emily, this is Dr. Ross. She's a psychologist who works with kids who have been through difficult experiences. She'd like to talk with you, if that's okay." Emily looked up, clutching Leo protectively as he slept in her lap. She'd heard of psychologists before, but they had always been spoken about in hushed tones, as though seeing one meant there was something wrong with you. Still, she trusted Dr. Bennett, and the woman before her looked genuinely kind. Emily gave a hesitant nod. Dr. Ross took a seat beside Emily, keeping her voice soft and warm. "Hi, Emily, I'm here to listen, and I want you to know that whatever you say stays between us. My job is to help you feel safe, and to make sure you know that none of what you've been through was your fault." The words struck a chord deep within Emily. She'd never heard anyone say that before. She had always blamed herself, thinking that maybe if she had been better, quieter, or braver, things would have been different. They spoke for a while, Dr. Ross gently asking questions and offering insights without pressing too hard. Emily found herself slowly unraveling her fears, her words cautious but honest. She shared stories of her stepfather's anger, the terror she felt each day, and the painful silence she'd lived in, always afraid to speak out. "You've been so strong, Emily," Dr. Ross said softly, her voice filled with admiration. "But you don't have to carry this alone anymore. You're not alone." Emily's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of relief and sadness spilling over. She wiped them away quickly, embarrassed, but Dr. Ross just offered her a tissue and a comforting smile. Over the next few sessions, Emily found herself opening up more. Each conversation with Dr. Ross was like shedding a layer of fear, slowly revealing the girl beneath the scars. Dr. Ross taught her small techniques to manage her anxiety: deep breathing, grounding exercises, and visualizing a safe place whenever the memories felt too overwhelming. Clara often joined them at the end of each session, bringing a snack or a small treat, and her presence offered Emily an additional layer of reassurance. Clara had become more than just a nurse. She was a friend, a protector, someone who genuinely cared. One evening, as Emily sat beside Clara in the hospital's small garden, watching the sunset while Leo dozed in his stroller, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. "Clara," Emily began hesitantly, Do you think I'll ever feel normal again?" Clara looked at her with a gentle smile, brushing a stray curl from Emily's forehead. "Normal is different for everyone, Emily, but I think you'll find your own kind of happiness, one that's even stronger because of everything you've been through. You're brave, and that bravery will carry you through." Emily nodded, comforted by Clara's words. She was beginning to see herself not just as a survivor, but as someone who could grow, who could build a future despite the past she carried. As the days continued, Emily's connection with Leo only deepened. She watched over him with fierce protectiveness, changing his diapers, feeding him, and singing him to sleep with soft lullabies. The nurses would often remark on how well she cared for him, how natural she seemed in her role as his guardian. Leo, oblivious to the turmoil around him, responded to her with unconditional love, his chubby arms reaching for her whenever she came near. In his innocent eyes, Emily found strength, a reason to keep moving forward. One afternoon, Clara found Emily in the nursery, reading a children's book to Leo as he lay nestled in her arms. Clara sat down beside them, watching with admiration as Emily read the story with such tenderness, bringing each character to life with her quiet voice. "You're a wonderful sister, Emily," Clara said softly, once the story ended. "You've given Leo so much love and comfort. He's lucky to have you." Emily looked down at her baby brother, her eyes brimming with affection. "I just want him to have a life where he never has to feel scared, where he can just be happy." Clara reached over, placing a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder. "He will, Emily, and so will you. We're going to make sure of that." Emily glanced at Clara, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you and Dr. Bennett. You've made me believe in people again." Clara smiled, fighting back tears. "You're a special girl, Emily, and you've shown us all what real strength looks like." As Maria continued her search for a foster family, she found one that seemed perfect. A couple with experience in fostering children who were willing to take in both Emily and Leo. When she shared the news with Emily, the girl's face lit up with a mixture of relief and excitement. Will they be kind?" Emily asked, her voice filled with hope. Maria nodded, smiling. "They're wonderful people, Emily. I think you and Leo will feel very safe with them." Emily took a deep breath, the weight of her past beginning to lift. She still had a long road ahead, but for the first time, the future didn't seem as frightening. It was a chance for her and Leo to build a life without fear, a life filled with the love and security she'd always dreamed of. The hospital staff, especially Clara and Dr. Bennett, shared in her joy. They had seen Emily transform from a frightened child into a resilient young girl, and the thought of her finally finding peace filled them with a profound sense of satisfaction. On Emily's last night at the hospital, Clara stayed with her, reading stories and talking about the future. As they laughed and shared dreams, Emily felt for the first time like a child again, unburdened by the horrors of her past. The morning of Emily and Leo's departure from Riverview General Hospital was bittersweet. Over the past weeks, the hospital had become a sanctuary for Emily, a place where she had found safety, healing, and even friendship. The thought of leaving filled her with both excitement and apprehension, but she knew it was time to start a new chapter. Nurse Clara entered Emily's room, her face bright but her eyes tinged with sadness. She carried a small suitcase filled with clothes, books, and other essentials that the hospital staff had collected for Emily and Leo. "I packed a few extra things for you both," Clara said, setting the suitcase by the bed. "And this," she added, handing Emily a soft stuffed bear with a heart sewn onto its chest, "is from me, to keep you company when you feel alone." Emily clutched the bear to her chest, a lump forming in her throat. She looked up at Clara, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. "Thank you, Clara, for everything. You made me feel safe." Clara pulled Emily into a hug, wrapping her arms around her with a warmth that felt like home. "You are the bravest girl I know, Emily, and you've given Leo so much love. I'm so proud of you." As they pulled apart, Dr. Bennett entered the room, smiling as he watched the two of them. "Are you ready for your big adventure, Emily?" Emily nodded, a small smile breaking through her nervousness. "I think so. I'm excited, but I'm going to miss you and Clara." Dr. Bennett knelt down to her level, his expression kind. "We'll miss you too, Emily. But remember, you're not alone. You have all of us cheering you on, even if we're not right here." Emily hugged Dr. Bennett tightly, feeling the weight of his words. He and Clara had been more than just doctors and nurses. They had become family, people who had stood by her during the darkest times of her life. As they walked through the halls toward the entrance, Emily noticed familiar faces, nurses, volunteers, and staff who had come to say goodbye. Each person offered words of encouragement, small gestures that made her feel loved and valued. Some handed her small notes, others left tiny gifts in Leo's stroller, each token a reminder that she wasn't walking into the unknown alone. At the front doors stood Maria, the social worker who had found the perfect foster family for Emily and Leo. Beside her was a kind-looking woman named Laura, who would be their new foster mother. Laura's face lit up with warmth as she spotted Emily and Leo, her eyes filled with compassion. Maria knelt down beside Emily, her voice soft and comforting. "Emily, I want you to meet Laura. She's going to take care of you and Leo, and I know she's very excited to welcome you both." Laura extended a gentle hand, her smile radiating kindness. "Hi, Emily. I've heard so much about you. I can't wait to get to know you and Leo better. We have a room ready for you, with toys and books, and a safe place for Leo to play." Emily looked up at Laura, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. But there was something in Laura's eyes, a sincerity that reminded her of Clara and Dr. Bennett. She took Laura's hand, feeling a sense of trust beginning to form. Maria smiled, watching the connection between them. "You're going to be just fine, Emily, and if you ever need anything, Clara and I are just a call away." Clara knelt down beside Emily, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Remember, Emily, this is the beginning of a beautiful journey for you and Leo. You've already been so strong. Keep that strength, and you'll create a life full of love and happiness." Emily nodded, wiping away a tear as she hugged Clara one last time. She looked back at Dr. Bennett and Maria, giving them small waves as she and Laura headed toward the car with Leo. As they drove away from the hospital, Emily gazed out the window, watching the world pass by. She felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. The hospital had been a place of healing, a shelter where she had found her strength. But now, she was stepping into the unknown, with Leo by her side and a foster family waiting to welcome her. Laura glanced at her through the rearview mirror, her expression warm. "I've got a lovely home waiting for you, Emily. It's in a neighborhood with parks, and there's even a school nearby. I think you and Leo will feel very happy there." Emily offered a small, hopeful smile. "Thank you, Laura. I've never had a real home." Laura's face softened, her voice gentle. "Well, I'm honored to be the one to welcome you to yours." As they drove, Leo woke up, blinking sleepily and reaching for Emily. She leaned over, pressing a gentle kiss to his forehead. He was her light, her reminder that love could grow even in the darkest places. Together they were starting a new chapter, one filled with the promise of safety, care, and family. A few weeks later, Emily received a package from Riverview General. Inside were letters from Clara, Dr. Bennett, and even a few of the nurses who had cared for her. They each wrote words of encouragement, sharing memories of her time at the hospital, and reminding her that she would always have a place in their hearts. In Clara's letter, Emily found a photograph of them together, taken on her last day at the hospital. They were both smiling, and Clara had written a simple message on the back: "You're stronger than you know, and you are never alone. Love, Clara." Emily placed the photograph on her bedside table, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had been through so much, but she had found people who believed in her, who showed her that kindness and love existed in the world. And for the first time in her life, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she could be happy. As time went on, Emily adjusted to her new life with Laura. She learned to trust again, to laugh and play as a child should. Leo grew under her care, his laughter filling their home with joy. Laura became more than just a foster mother. She became a source of stability, of guidance and love. And though Emily's past would always be a part of her, she knew that she and Leo had a future filled with possibility. She was no longer a child lost in the dark. She was a survivor, a protector, and a sister filled with hope. With each passing day, she carried the memories of Riverview General, of Clara, Dr. Bennett, and Maria as reminders of where she had come from and the strength she had gained. Her story was one of resilience, of finding light after darkness, and of discovering that family was not just defined by blood, but by those who loved and believed in her. And as she walked forward into her future, hand in hand with Leo, Emily knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together with courage, love, and the support of the family she had found along the way.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you the best stories.